Hey everyone, as you know by now, it is Jabe, and as you may not know, I'm a big fan of space engineers, and you may not also know this, planets were just released. So I've got this little workshop type world where I develop new things and kind of just test stuff. And what I've come up with this time, and this is the first type of video that I've done like this, is just a spotlight on a creation that I've come up with. This is what I like to call my engineering pod, and this is the first version of it. You might notice it's a little bit bland. It's completely white. I have not painted it, and that's a decision that I made myself because I was like, well, if people really like this and they want to download it, they can make it whatever color they want so that it matches their base. And I think it's a very useful ship. It's not really a ship, more of like a bay type thing, because it's actually heavily influenced by the way the engineering bays in StarCraft 2 look. If you couldn't tell, it's still kind of, it's kind of blocky and everything, and it doesn't accurately represent a engineering bay. But what we're doing here on this little test, just a quick little test run, is a test to see if it can escape the gravity of a moon, which it obviously can, and a test to see if it can make it into the atmosphere of a planet and land on that planet without any problems, and hopefully be easy enough to land that you don't break anything on the way in, because I think the atmospheric lander that Keen included with the planets update is a little bit tough to work with. So I hope that maybe by making this, there's a bit of a workaround for that. Whoever wants to download it and try it out can let me know. I would appreciate the feedback. But I like to think that I've done a pretty good job with it. As you can see here, we're kind of just moving along towards that Earth-like planet. And I'm going to do a few jump cuts and some cross-fading here in a little bit, just to shorten the length of the trip, because it was quite a long trip. I could give you some raw numbers information, but I'm not entirely sure on how many things are, well, I'm not entirely sure on how many of what items are on this thing, and I haven't updated the Steam Workshop listing. There will be a link for the Steam Workshop area for this ship so that you can go download it and try it after you're done watching this video. And a few things have changed since then, like the amount of batteries on board has been changed to 3. Also, you'll notice when we actually get to the landing sequence part, there is a lack of a landing gear camera, which is something I usually like to include so that it's a lot easier to set your ship down. And it's like a godsend now that planets are out, being able to actually set your ship down. I did do one test to this previously, and actually I did 2 tests to this previously. On the first test, I made it into the atmosphere of the same planet and picked a good spot to land, and actually the only thing that was wrong was there was one of my landing gears came in a little bit too hot, and I blew that up, but replaced it. No other, like, there weren't even any. As you can see, we've got front and back windows, so you can see your approach and what you're leaving, and passenger seats at each window, and a bunch of storage space. This thing's got a ton of storage. It also comes equipped with a refinery, assembler, its own oxygen system, a medical bay, and a gravity generator. You notice it's got 2 cryo chambers, which I'm not really even sure what those are for at this point. You just kind of get in those, and there's not really a texture looking out of them. It kind of freaks out. And this is just kind of what it looks like when you're sitting in one of the passenger seats up front. We can see the planet there, and we can kind of see that we're being pulled down by the gravity a bit at this point. And that seat just caused me to glitch out a little bit and pop up into the air. If you're watching this video and you haven't bought this game yet, I do recommend it, especially now that planets are out, but you have to keep in mind that it is a little bit buggy because it is a alpha release and it is not by any means finished just yet. So here we are making the final approach on the planet's surface. And I'm going to kind of go over what I did to land it. I've come up with a pretty good landing procedure for this thing. The first thing I did was around, what was it, like 8,000 meters before contact, I turn on the inertia dampeners. This thing is also completely capable of leaving a planet's gravity. It has atmospheric thrusters and regular, I just call them space thrusters. I don't really know what they call them. And there are toggles down there on the action bar for you to turn those on and off. So you'll notice here in a little bit, whenever I actually remember it, I turn the normal thrusters off and leave my atmospheric thrusters on. The best thing that you can do to slow this thing down, if you don't feel that you're slowing down enough, is to tilt it upward and let those two atmospheric thrusters on the side, the larger ones, take care of slowing the vehicle down. And then just kind of slowly tap the descent button. I leave the two larger ones on and back for just a little bit of assistance. They don't have that much of an effect in atmosphere, but I like to have them on. You can also toggle your inertia dampeners in atmosphere to kind of just let the gravity do most of the work, but that will cause this particular, I don't really want to call it a ship, it'll call this particular craft to plummet pretty fast because it is very heavy and it's carrying a lot. So I'm going to try and set it down right there where the crosshairs are, pretty close to this little lake. I feel that right now is a good time to go over what's missing from the build and what I would like to add in the future once I learn a few more things about building in Space Engineers. And the first thing that is sorely missing is a extendable, or I don't know, like a ramp that flips out from the back over, that covers the door up on the back and comes straight down to the ground, and it's configurable so that it won't, smack into the ground and tear itself up or cause something to explode. And I would really ideally like to add that after rotors don't explode themselves. But it is something that is really needed because this thing is kind of tall, and if you forget and go out, if you're playing survival and you forget and go out of this thing without taking any hydrogen bottles, then you can't really get back into it. It requires a jetpack to get into. It can be a little bit difficult to land, but it's nowhere near as difficult to land as the one that came with the game. As for other things that I'd like to add, a few areas for small drones like surveillance drones, and a little thing that I developed called a relay drone that I'll go over later in probably a different video if I continue to do these spotlight videos. I hope this one's well received because I always enjoy making videos, and I enjoy making every one that I make, and I enjoyed making this craft. You'll notice here that I use my atmospheric thrusters a bit to kind of just correct the placement because I want to get right here in front of this lake. I kind of want, when I set this thing down, I want it to be kind of scenic. I figured, like, I decided as I was setting it down, it needs to be scenic. I need to be able to exit this view and look out the front window and see something cool. So I decided on this little lake. I'm trying to kind of get it away from that tree there. Another thing, it would have been great to have that camera that I forgot to put on. It is on there now, though. The camera will be there on the downloadable version. And if you want to add anything to it, be my guest. Now, when we're this far away from the ground, just barely tap that C button to bring her on down, and give it a little bit of upward thrust too with the space bar to kind of control the speed, because you don't want to come in too hot. You will blow up your landing gear. And then just kind of even those legs out with the ground, and you've got it set down. And lock your landing gear. Now you've got a fully functional engineering lab that is portable, and you're ready to go out onto that planet and mine for some ore and do all the stuff that you do, all the stuff that a space engineer will do. Also, as you can see here, you probably saw in the beginning of the video, we have an airlock, which we don't really need to use because this planet does have oxygen, and I knew that to begin with, but I just wanted to be like, oh, I just landed on this planet. I don't know if I can breathe on it or not, so I just kind of walk out there and check it. Let's have a hop down onto the surface for celebration. Now that we made it this far, we may as well walk around on the planet a bit. And there we are. My mouse wheel's kind of a bit jittery lately for some reason. Gravity does affect your jetpack a lot if you haven't played the game since planets have been released. Planetary gravity will affect your jetpack, and this is creative mode, so I'm not running out of hydrogen. But here's the roof of the thing. You see you got 4 solar panels. You got a conveyor system. Any good engineering lab has got to have some solar panels just for auxiliary power, but the craft actually comes with a ton of uranium, plenty enough to get you started. This thing's like, if you download this, it's easy mode. So anyway, guys, that is the Jabe Arcade Engineering Pod Mark 1. If you liked it, you can go download it on the Steam Workshop. I'll provide a link at the end of the video. And if you like this video, well, that's when you hit the thumbs up button and leave it a like. And if you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and links to Facebook and Twitter are in the description. Leave comments too, and share this video with your friends. I'll see you guys next time.